This is Gerardo Del Real with Resource Stock Digest. Joining me today is the president and COO of Abacus Mining and Exploration, Mr. Paul Anderson. Paul, how are you?
I'm just fine, thank you, Gerardo. How are you?
I am well. I'm excited about the next several months. There's a lot going on. Let's get to it. You just announced your geophysical program at the Jersey Valley Gold Project in Nevada. It's a project that I'm excited to see drilled. Can we start there before we pivot and talk a bit about Ajax? Some pretty important developments on that front as well. But first, Jersey Valley, it seems like by month end, you'll have some geophysics action going.
Yes, that's right. We've just announced that we've signed a contract to do some further geophysics, some IP or induced polarization geophysics. So Jersey Valley is a gold project. It's been worked in the past. It has some existing IP from a previous operator about 15 years ago. That IP showed some pretty compelling targets. We got a hold of the raw data back in June and we reprocessed it, and it showed some very compelling, fairly large targets. One is about 600 meters by 500 meters, and the targets were open beyond the lines of the geophysics. So what we're doing is basically bracketing that old geophysics and doing new and seeing if we can extend those anomalies. Now, the other nice thing about those anomalies is that we know that they're gold and silver bearing. Mm-hmm. The previous operator did a little bit of drilling, not much. They've got basically 3-4 holes in that entire area, but the results were fairly compelling. Sort of on the order of sort of 0.2 golds over 13 meters and about 0.2 golds over 30 meters in one of the drill holes. And in some cases, the drilling sort of ended in mineralization, which was pretty interesting. So, one thing about that old program is that it seems as if the geophysics that was done at the times was not maybe processed as well as it could have been. The targets were not as well defined. So the drill holes were set up on that basis. And as far as what we can tell is that they basically nicked the targets in the drilling, but they haven't tested them properly. So it all makes a very compelling story. So we're going to get in there, do some more geophysics. It's supposed to start by the end of the month. It's tough to find geophysical companies or any companies, contractors these days. Everybody's raising money. So we're going to get going at the end of the month, and we should have those results back sometime in October, probably mid-October, something like that.
And then you're hoping to drill this the following quarter once everything is processed, correct?
Yeah, we need to get, right now the process is, get the geophysics back. Then you can ask for the drill permits. This is BLM land, Bureau of Land Management. And the permitting process is generally pretty straightforward. We do have roads, good roads that go into the area. We might not have to build any new roads, but we might have to build a couple of drill pads. So the idea is that once we have the targets defined where we want to drill, we ask for the drill permits, and then at the same time we're talking to drilling companies getting the contract going. So the availability of drillers right now, because everybody is doing the same thing. Sure. But we're certainly hoping by fourth quarter to get in there and do some initial drilling and see what this looks like.
We got to chat Ajax here in a second with, copper over $3 and gold at $19.60. But before we get to that, I'd love to ask you about Willow. Any progress there? I've been to that property. I think it's a heck of a property with some great targets. Any thoughts on Willow and kind of how you see that project being developed over the next couple of quarters?
Well, it's, we've been sort of in a holding pattern on that project where we hit basically the host granite for the porphyries in the camp. So we need to have that granite to have a porphyry in the Arrington camp. And it's a new discovery of that rock type on our property. The drilling we did a couple of years ago was very limited in extent. It basically defined that unit, but it didn't define how large it was or how deep it was and that sort of thing. So we need to get back in there and do probably another 6 to 8 drill holes to sort of define how large it is, what the grade is, that sort of thing. And that would be just sort of an initial sort of, okay, it sort of looks this big, now it needs more work. Or it's too deep and, there's, it's not economic or whatever. So we've been giving some thoughts to getting back in there. Of course, as you mentioned, the copper price is up, gold is up. It's probably time to get back and working on that project. So we're looking at it now. We don't have plans immediately to do something, but in the very near future, I think we need to get back and start working that project again.
Excellent. So stay tuned is what you're telling me.
Stay tuned, yes.
I like it. Now, again, gold and copper being where it is, where they are, we have to talk Ajax, some pretty significant news that I think some people caught on to, but most did not. It seems like KGHM and you have boots on the ground again, or will very soon.
Well, we do, yeah. I think you're right that people have sort of missed the significance of the announcement that we made a week or so ago. Our partner KGHM has 80% of the project. Of course, Abacus has carried through to production on that project. The project kind of shut down a couple of years ago when we got a no on the environmental permit. Our partners KGHM basically pulled a lot of people off the project. There's been a lot of changes in terms of personnel, that sort of thing, in the last little while. And they haven't had a presence up in Kamloops for a couple of years now because they closed the offices. So what they've done in the last few weeks is they've hired a new, basically a new project head. They call him the Ajax superintendent. So he's actually a resident of Kamloops. He lives in town. He's worked on the project in the past. He's an engineer by training. So, he knows the project. He knows the local issues. And of course, most of the local issues are getting buy-in from First Nations, local community groups, and government, more or less in that order. So that's quite significant that someone is actually in town working on the project again. KGHM is supposed to be renting new office space. I haven't heard that they've actually signed a lease on something, but it was supposed to be imminent, a couple of weeks ago. So we're quite pleased that the project seems to be on its way being back on track. And of course, the idea is with this new person in charge is that you start moving towards a resubmittal of the environmental application permit, which is the first process in terms of getting a mine into production. So we're a ways off of a production decision, but it's a significant first step. So we're encouraged that our partners has actually got someone back in town working on the project. That's pretty significant.
And again, this is a massive project. It's 2.7 billion pounds of copper, 2.6 million ounces of gold, I believe 5.3 million ounces of silver, with incredibly exciting exploration upside. And as you mentioned, you're carried through production and own 20% of it, a pretty significant detail there. I'm looking forward to more news out of Ajax, but first comes first, and sounds like Jersey Valley is up next. Paul, anything else that you'd like to add before I let you go?
No, just that I guess we'll have a bit of news flow when we actually start the survey. We'll probably put something out to the market that it's actually started. And, stay tuned about Willow, because we are thinking about sort of getting back in on that project. So, and Ajax as well. So, there's going to be some news coming out.
It's a lot to like for a company that has a market cap of, what is it today, Paul?
Not very much.
16.6 million Canadian. And again, 20% of Ajax, an exciting gold project, and an exciting copper gold project in Willow. I'm a biased shareholder. I participated in several financings. I plan on continuing to add shares, so take that as you will, but there's a reason for all of that. Paul, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. You have a good day.
You as well.
All right. Thanks.